Well, good morning, Facebook friends. Good afternoon, YouTubers, wherever you are all over the world. I am so happy to be here with you today to do a makeup session on the topic of how to let go of resentment. But I'm going to just wait for you to say hello to me before I do anything else so that I know that we are live. Since I'm all by myself, I do have a tech support person in the background, but that she's not at my house. And so I just want to make sure that we're good and you can see me and we're live. And so just give a shout out and say hello. We're here. It looks like we're live. Facebook and YouTube both have checked their boxes. And once I'm sure we're live here, I'm going to actually press the button and go live to Instagram as well, which I've not done for a long time. Instagram is not something that I'm familiar with as much. So let me know that we're live. Let me know that you're hearing me, that I've got some company. Okay. Hello, Luann from Facebook. Thank you so much for letting me know that you're here. So good to see you. I haven't been on for a week or so. We did our large webinar last week. Hi, Ruth. Good to see you too. Hi, Carol Sue. Let me just take a moment and push the button to start Instagram as well. Checking connection. That's probably not going to work. All right. Hi, Instagram friends. I have never been live before on Instagram, but we're doing a live on how to let go of resentment. So if that's an issue for you, stay tuned. I'm also on Facebook as well as YouTube. So I'm going to be taking some questions from those sites if you want to hop over there. But I'm just happy to manage this technology all by myself. So good you're here. Thanks, Susan, for your comment on the sound. And Nancy, glad to see you're here. Hi, Instagram friends. So good to see you too. This is my new foray into Instagram Live. When we have co-hosts, when I have one of my coaches on with me, we can't do Instagram because it's two different locations and it's hard that way. But since I was all by my lonesome, I thought I would be here. And we're talking about resentment right now. So first of all, let's just define it. What is resentment? Let's come up with a definition that works for us. What does resentment mean? Because it's not anger, it's bigger than that. So what does resentment? We can't let go of something we don't know what it is or whether we have it. So if we're struggling with resentment, what is it? How would you define it? Give me some words. Hi, friends. Hi, Lorianne and Michelle. Leanne, thank you for showing up. Renee, Janet, and I see others on Instagram, Nicole, Kathleen, Connie, holding on to bitter feelings. Holding on to bitter feelings. Yeah. If you're requesting that you join our live feed for Instagram, I am so sorry, but I'm afraid to press any buttons because I don't know what I might turn off. So I can't answer that right now. So if you really want to listen to this, I'd encourage you to head over to Facebook and go to the Enriching Relationships That Matter Most. That's my public Facebook page. Feeling upset for doing too much and not being appreciated. Okay, Monica, that's a good start, but that could be also just anger. So what turns anger? YouTube is not live yet. Well, it says that we have some YouTube people. So I don't know how to fix that. It says that YouTube is on. So I'm going to trust that it is because I see YouTube markers here. So let's just trust that it's working. And if it's not, we'll have to send a replay to the YouTube people because I don't know how to fix any of that. I'm not going to go off and go on again. So we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram. So we're going to be good with that. So what is resentment? What is resentment? Give me a definition. So Michelle says she's on YouTube, so we're good at there. What is resentment? It's anger, but it's something more. What is it? What is resentment? Anger that got stuck. Okay, and great definition. Anger that got stuck. I call it the constipated emotion, right? So we all have anger, and anger is not sin. Anger is not sin. We feel angry when different things happen in our life. And even babies get angry before babies can even think or process why they're angry. They're angry that they're not being fed. That's how they let you know I'm hungry. They're crying. And if you don't answer them right away, they start crying in an angry tone, right? And so anger isn't a bad thing. But when we hold on to it too long, longer than necessary, see, all of our emotions are great informants. They're telling us something's wrong, whether it's our anger, whether it's our anxiety, whether it's our gut feeling about something, whether it's our sadness, whether it's a pain in our hip or a pain in our heart or a pain in our head. Our feelings, whether they be physical or emotional, are telling us something is wrong. Something is wrong. So we ought to pay attention. But if we ignore that feeling, and we let it fester, it usually grows into a bigger problem. And that's what resentment is. When we don't deal with our anger properly, we don't resolve it, we don't express it, we don't let go of it, we don't forgive, whatever it might be that we need to do. We don't set boundaries that we need to set. We don't do our own work to be able to say no so that we don't get taken advantage of. Whatever it is that anger is telling us to do, and we're not doing it, we don't speak up, then it can boil over into something longer term, which is resentment. So this whole Facebook Live is about this live is about how to let go of resentment, how to let go of it. So I'm going to give you some real practical tools, and then I'm going to answer your questions. But first of all, what does it cost you to hold on to it? So if you have not let go of resentment, it's because you're choosing not to, right? And so what does it cost you? And what does it benefit you to hang on to it, right? Someone once said that resentment is like drinking poison meant for someone else, right? It is costing you something. It is costing you something. So Kathleen says, long-held anger and resentment can create physical health issues. I see it in my family. Yes. I remember she wasn't really a friend of mine, but she was an acquaintance at it was a school function. And this woman held so much resentment toward her husband. You could see it in the lines of her face. As she was aging, her face was just turning into this scowling, angry face. And the Bible tells us that our face shows our emotions, right? Long-term, they're etched on our wrinkles. And so it costs you, ladies. You're going to look uglier and uglier as you get older if you hang on to that resentment. So that's a really good reason to let it go, right? But what are some of the reasons that it costs our health, we get sick, lack of peace. What else does it cost us? Why are we drinking the poison that's meant for someone else, right? I think one of the benefits, let's switch gears. What's the benefit of keeping resentment? All right, because there's some benefits to it. At least we think it in the moment. What is a benefit for hanging on to resentment? What is the benefit for hanging on to resentment? Okay, it stops me trusting people. Maybe that's a benefit, or it gives you a boundary. All right, so trusting, Anne, I'm not going to trust that person because I'm feeling resentful. But we need to learn to set boundaries without needing to poison ourselves in the process, right? But sometimes it helps us have boundaries. Like, I'm not going to talk to that person. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to let him touch me. I'm not, because of our resentment. But we don't really have a good boundary if we don't have that resentment. It's sort of like we need it as our armor, right? It feels empowering. It gives us control. It costs me my joy. And I worked with a woman who had resented her husband for cheating on her, which is a really typical reason we resent our husbands. He cheated on her, and as far as she knew, he hadn't done it again, but she just couldn't let it go. She could not let it go. And she was so resentful for years and years. And when I asked her this question, what do you get out of holding on to this? She said something pretty powerful. It shocked me. She said, I get to be right, and I get to punish him. Now, she was also being punished and her marriage was falling apart. But she got to be right. And he got to be wrong. She got to be the good guy and he got to be the bad guy. And there's a payoff for that. There's a payoff for that. But it also costs you. It also costs you. The benefit of resentment makes me feel right and justified. Yes. And anger itself lies to us. Right? How many of you have really lost your temper and legitimately so, whether it's at your children or at your sibling or at your neighbor or your husband, and you've said some things in your anger that you felt totally justified in. And later, when you calmed down and came back to your right mind, you felt a little bad about what you did and how you said it, right? But in the moment of our anger, we feel totally right because anger lies to us a lot about what's right to do in the moment, right? Resentment does the same thing, but it does give us a benefit and it does cost us. So who I'm talking to right now when we're talking about letting go is those of you who realize that the benefit does not outweigh the cost, right? And that you want to let go of it because you can't let go of an emotion that you have that you don't want to let go of. right? So I'm talking to those of you. Jesus asked a very interesting question to the man who had been paralyzed for 38 years in John chapter 5. He said, "Do you want to be well?" Well, what an interesting question. Is there a cost to being paralyzed? Yeah. Is there a benefit to being paralyzed? Yeah. I don't have to work. I don't have to function as an adult. I can be dependent on everyone's goodwill. I can wait for someone to take care of me. I don't even have to put myself in the pool of Siloam. Jesus asked him, "Why haven't you put yourself in that pool to get healed?" "Oh, no one's here to help me." I get to be helpless. I get to be powerless. So Jesus is asking him, "You sure you want to give those up?" Right? Because you don't get to be that anymore if you get well. Right? So that's why we started this conversation. What's it cost you? And what does it benefit you? Because once you give it up, you don't have to pay the cost, but you don't get the perks either. Right? So do you want to be well? And if the answer is yes, then I'm going to give you a couple of tools to begin to let go of resentment. You know, the Bible tells us that we are not powerless victims of our own emotions. The Bible tells us, for example, in Ephesians, get rid of bitterness, rage, anger, slander. Well, who's supposed to get rid of it? We are. Well, just like you get rid of toxins in your body, you're to get rid of toxins in your emotions. Our emotions serve a purpose, but sometimes we hang on to them way too long, and it costs us. It costs us. So, first step, if you want to learn how to let go of your emotions, I'm going to give you 3 things to do. There's others as well, but these are maybe 3 things you haven't heard of before. Maybe one of them you have. Okay. Would that be okay with you? Yeah, I hear that. I'm willing. Yes, I think I'm in danger of feeling right when I really need to just realize the other was wrong and let it go. Yeah. Yeah, it costs you. So I'm going to draw a circle diagram that I tend to draw quite a bit for those of you who know me. And I'm going to give you, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to draw it up for you. And I'm going to draw 3 circles, actually 4 circles. And we're going to label them. I'll hold them up in a minute. There are 3 circles. One is your thoughts, one is your feelings, and one is your body, and one is you. And the biggest one is you. So Instagram people, I'm going to hold it up in terms of your screen so that you can see it. And Facebook people, I think you can see it on that screen. Okay. So here's the diagram. The you circle is the biggest circle. So you have your thoughts. All right. So when you're angry, you have angry thoughts. I can't believe he did this. This is ridiculous. He's ruined our marriage. They broke my things. They stole my money. Whatever it is, you're mad and you're having mad thoughts. Right? You're also having mad feelings. And it's also impacting your body. Your heart's beating, you're sweating, you're feeling, unsettled in your body, your chest hurts, your head hurts, all of those kind of things. So you have feelings, you have thoughts, you are in your body. Who's in charge of all of that? You are. All right, you take care of your body. You take care of your thoughts. The Bible tells you take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Who does that for you if you don't? Renew your mind with God's truth in Romans 2. Who does that for you if you don't? It also tells us to take care of our emotions. Get rid of those feelings. In Ecclesiastes, it says, remove vexation from your heart. It also says in Proverbs, guard your heart above all else. It is the wellspring of. Who does that for you if you don't? Sadly, so many Christian people, but I'm talking mostly to women, I imagine mostly women here, we don't even think about this part. We just have our feelings, we have our thoughts, and we are in our body. And it's all just a big mishmash. And so this is the first tool that I'm going to give you that will help you. You have feelings. Your feelings aren't you. Your thoughts are not you. You have thoughts. Sometimes we have really crazy thoughts. It doesn't mean you're crazy. Sometimes we have really evil thoughts. That doesn't mean you're evil. Sometimes Satan puts thoughts. The Bible tells us in John chapter 8 that Satan is a liar and he's the accuser and he accuses the brethren. And he might make you have guilty thoughts and feel guilty feelings. They're not even your thoughts, but they're coming at your mind. You have thoughts. You have feelings. Okay, so here's the tool. When you recognize that you're in a bad feeling place and you say to yourself, I'm so resentful, I'm so angry, I'm so exhausted, I'm so burnt out, I'm so done, whatever your feeling is, all right? You're gonna have to, if you want to let go of that feeling, you're gonna have to say it a different way. All you have to do is catch yourself because we all say it that way. But you are not your anger. You are not your resentment. You have resentment. So you're going to say, I am, you don't have to say it quite this way, but it helps to say it quite this way. I am aware. I have a lot of resentment in me. I am aware that I'm feeling angry right now. I am aware that my feelings are hurt by what that person said. I am aware that I'm having some rotten thoughts. I'm stinking thinking. All right. I am not my thoughts. Not every thought you have is a reflection of who you are. Sometimes you have thoughts that you don't even want to have. Where is the part of you that doesn't want to have those thoughts or doesn't want to have those feelings? And right now, so many of you are saying, I don't want to feel resentment anymore. Yes, I'm raising my hand. I want to be well. Who's the part of you? This part. This part. So this part has to grow stronger. This is your executive function part. This is who you are, not necessarily what you feel. Sometimes we feel things. Maybe you're attracted to a coworker and you're feeling lustful feelings that you don't want to feel. You want to be a good wife. You want to be pure of heart. And all of a sudden you're having sexual dreams about your neighbor. And you're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with nothing? You're human. But this isn't who you are. You're feeling feelings and now you've got to deal with them. All right. So this is the tool. It works for all of your feelings and even your thoughts if you use it. But I'm going to teach you how to use it with resentment. So I'm aware I'm stuck with resentment right now. I'm constipated with resentment. It's that stuck anger. And I don't want to feel that anymore. Right? I don't want to feel that anymore. I want to let it go. All right. So this part is going to let it go. Not necessarily this part yet. This part is the executive function over here. Okay, is that tool making sense? I'm aware. So you're just going to verbalize it differently. Now, it's not I am resentful. I am aware that I have resentment. Not I am anger or I am angry. I'm aware that I'm feeling pretty angry. Now I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with it? How do I want to express it? You've got to pause there. You've got to pause to notice that you have something that maybe you want to have or you don't want to have. Maybe it's going to be good for you, or maybe it's going to take you in a bad place. And you need to give yourself a pause. This gives yourself the pause to choose. I am aware I have this feeling. Okay, so that's the tool number one. Everybody clear with that? So now that you're aware with it, what in the world do you do with it? Right? How do you let it go? I am not my feelings. No, you're not. And sometimes we have feelings, I read in the chat, that you feel really ashamed of. I remember feeling very envious when I was trying to adopt a second child. We couldn't have a second child for a long story. And my friend got pregnant and I was happy for my friend, but I was also jealous and envious and upset, all of those human feelings that we have. And I was having negative thoughts. Like, I don't even want to go to her shower and I can't celebrate with her because I didn't get that. And and the big part of me is like, ew, I don't want to feel those feelings. I don't want to think those thoughts. That's not who I am. And that was good for me to recognize. That's not who I am. It's just how I'm feeling. I'm human. And I can deal with that feeling because that's not what I want to feel. And that's not who I am. Right. And so when we have those shameful, icky feelings, whether they be resentment or jealousy or lust or whatever, and we're going, whoa. And our culture has been so misleading because they say, oh, if you feel it, it must be true. It must be your authentic self. That's garbage. I feel lots of stuff that is not what I want to feel. Right. But if we don't have that bigger circle in place and know who we are, then we fall prey to that kind of gobbledygook mindset. It's not true. Our feelings are important. Watch them, listen to them, pay attention to them, know them. They don't always tell you the truth, and neither do your thoughts. All right. And so that's where we're to guard our heart above all else and understand that our feelings and thoughts may take us down a rabbit trail or may take us straight to hell if we let them. All right. And if you live in resentment, you're in sort of an internal hell. Okay. So tool number one, externalize your feelings, recognize that they are not you. And right now you are saying, I do not want to feel that resentment anymore. So now I have to work on letting it go. Okay, so now what do we do when we let go of resentment? Well, I think the first thing that we do that God tells us to do is forgive. Forgive, right? Now, forgiveness isn't saying it didn't matter. Forgiveness isn't saying that it was okay. Forgiveness isn't saying I can trust you or I can be in relationship with you anymore. Forgiveness means I'm not carrying the debt of the load anymore. So I'm going to give you a quick example of what forgiveness looks like. So let's say that my sister or my friend said to me at one point in my life, Leslie, I am in a big mess and I need $10,000 and if I don't get this money, I'm going to go to jail and I don't want to go to jail. I've got 3 kids at home. I've got to take care of them. Can you lend me this $10,000? I promise I will pay it back. I will pay you $100 back a month for the rest of my life. And so I don't want this person to go to jail and I love them. And so I give them $10,000 out of my retirement account or my bank account that I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I give her a big chunk of my money because I love her. And I believe that she's sincere and she's going to pay me back. And month after month goes by and I don't hear anything about her paying me back. She's not gone to jail. She's got a new job. She's taken her kids to Disney. And all of a sudden, I'm like starting to feel what? That resentment. How dare you? You took advantage of me. You lied to me. You have no intention to pay me back. Oh my gosh. And I am full of resentment, right? And I'm also $10,000 poorer because this person's not going to pay the debt. So what do I do with that? Not only I'm out $10,000, but I am emotionally a wreck and feeling awful. So I have a choice I can be right and I can be mad for the rest of my life, which is me drinking the poison while she's going off to Disney. Some of you are still struggling with that. Your husband is remarried. He's having a new life. He left you for another woman and you're sitting in ashes resenting what he did to you. And you haven't built back your life. So here I am, $10,000 poor, angry that she won't pay me back. Now what do I do? I'm not going to get that $10,000 back. The sin is the sin. And I'm not happy about that. It cost me. But is it going to continue to cost me emotionally? It's up to me, right? So forgiving her is not a feeling. I don't feel any like warm fuzzies toward her for what she did to me. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It's a choice. We make it from here, not from here. We make it because that's who we want to be. That's what we want to do, not for the other person's benefit. They probably could care less. It's for our benefit so we don't keep drinking the poison of resentment. It's costing us too much. It already cost us enough. It already cost me $10,000. I'm not going to get cancer or ruin my health because of it, right? And so I am going to choose to forgive. So that means I'm canceling the debt. What does that look like in real life? It means I'm not going to expect her to pay me back. I'm not going to expect her to say she's sorry. I'm not going to look for that. I'm not going to wait for that. I'm not going to depend on that. I'm not going to need her to do anything in order for me to be okay. I'm not going to need her to do anything in order for me to be okay. Because God tells me I can be okay with him, not with her. I may never reconcile with her, but I can choose to forgive, cancel the debt. That doesn't mean I call her up and say, you don't have to pay me back or any. It means I let go of any expectation that she will pay me back, that she will be sorry. and it doesn't keep eating at my inners. That's resentment. Okay. I cancel the debt. Let it go. Now, if she were to come back 5 years from now and say, Leslie, I am so sorry. I was foolish and I took that money from you and I am going to pay you back now. And here's the money. I would take it. Canceling the debt doesn't mean she can't ever apologize to me or she can't ever make restitution if she chooses, because that's part of her repentance. That's part of her repentance, which is good for her. But I don't need her to do that anymore in order for me to be okay. So that's tool number 2. We forgive the debt, not for their benefit. The relationship isn't necessarily reconciled. I don't trust her. I wouldn't give her another $10,000. But I'm not going to let what she did to me ruin me. It might have ruined our relationship, but it's not going to ruin me. You following me? Everybody with me? Yeah. Somebody's saying, how do you forgive yourself? Really good question. Because sometimes we do things that are so against. Here's if we use this illustration, things here that is so against who we are, right? So let me give you an illustration. That a woman who I worked with for a while, a long time ago, had a hard time forgiving herself because she had an abortion. And she was a Christian woman and she was a single mom already and she knew better and she met a new man and they had a moment that she didn't exercise self-control. She was in this feeling space and she wanted to be with him and he wanted to be with her and she wasn't in her place here. And so she gave into temptation and found herself pregnant again. And she just couldn't bear the shame of that. So in a moment of insanity, as a Christian woman, she decided, I'm just going to have an abortion. And so her pain now was, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Listen to her thoughts. I can't believe I would be capable of such an evil action in her mind, right? So she was beating herself up and beating herself up and beating herself up and feeling lots of shame, telling herself, here, my thoughts are, I am bad. I can never forgive myself. I can't believe I did such a horrible thing. Well, if you think those things, our thoughts affect our emotions. So how do you imagine she felt? Depressed. That's why she was in counseling. She lost sight of this part of her. So this is really important. And we have a coaching group starting in September that if you really want to develop this part of yourself, it's called Walking in Core Strength. And we develop this whole part of your big circle so that you can be the woman that you want to be. And when you make a mistake and mess up and you do something from this place, which she did, she felt scared, she had an abortion. She felt lust, she had sex. Then she felt panicked and she had the abortion. And she wasn't consulting her big circle. This is the part of her that then condemned her. Her feelings were condemning her, but this part of her was like, you acted out of integrity. You acted out of who you weren't. Why would you do such a, and she was beating herself up and beating herself up from this place to this place over and over again. All right. So we had to strengthen this place to help her understand that just because you have virtues and values and you don't want to do bad things, sometimes these parts of us do get the best of us because we're human. And Jesus tells us that. He tells us to be careful about that. But we're not educated about that. And so I would say that the first step for you to forgive yourself is to accept yourself as a flawed human being. You see, this part, when you develop this part of you, it doesn't mean you're a perfect self. It doesn't mean you're a sinless self. You're a human self. And sometimes we do get caught in these places. That's why the Bible warns us so much to be careful about that, because we do get caught there and we are sinful and we are going to make bad decisions sometimes. That doesn't mean we're a loser or we're worthless. It means we're human. And so I think some of you have this perfectionistic streak that it shouldn't be this way. I should never make a mistake. I should have known better. I should have been better than that. I shouldn't have fallen for that. Why should you be so perfect? Why should you? You're not thinking correctly. You're trying to be someone you're not. You're trying to be God, who was perfect, but you're not him. And so self-forgiveness has a little bit more of a self-acceptance piece that I have to accept that I have flaws and weaknesses. And sometimes I'm going to make mistakes. And sometimes I'm going to do something that might be totally against my values. And that's why it's so important for you to start naming your values and start naming your virtues. Who are you? What's important to you? What what do you want said about who you are and how you lived your life? That all goes into this big circle, which we develop in our coaching group. And then we also teach you to recognize what's going on in these other two circles so that you begin to develop self-control. I'm aware I'm feeling angry. It doesn't mean I have to use a string of 4-letter words. In fact, I'm really angry. Maybe in Psalm 39, he says, I will put a muzzle over my mouth while the wicked are in my presence, because it's so tempting to blurt out a string of awful words when you're angry, right? And so to begin to recognize, wow, if I look at myself holistically, I'm still not perfect. But if I can develop a stronger, when Paul says, get rid of this, put on the armor of God, who does that? Your feelings don't do it, because you don't even feel like getting out of bed some mornings. Who gets you out of bed when you don't feel like it? You do, because you're responsible, because you have things to do, not because you feel like it, right? And so when we can begin to grasp this and understand this, this gives us power to make better choices, right? And so if you're stuck in resentment, now I'm aware I'm stuck in resentment. It's not who I am. I don't even want to be resentful anymore. I can choose to forgive. I can choose to let it go. So how do you let go of the person who's still hurting you? With boundaries. You need to have better boundaries so that you don't allow yourself to continue to be harmed by someone else. So there's a difference between hurt and harm. Harm, the Bible says, love does no harm, right? The Bible says love does no harm. And so, but it also says in the Bible that faithful are the wounds of a friend. So hurt and harm are not the same thing. Sometimes we feel hurt feelings because our ego is hurt, or we failed ourselves, or we failed somebody else, or they hurt our feelings because they criticized us. That's not the same as harm, especially if they meant something for our good. Harm is when you do damage to the person. You treat them as less than. You judge them, you condemn them, or they do to you. You treat them as less than an image bearer of the Most High God. And you harm you control them, you deny them their choice, all those kind of things, harm them and make them feel less than or powerless or helpless. Those are things that cause harm. So I don't know what happened in your situation. I see some feed in the chat, but understand that if someone continues to hurt you, why aren't you putting better boundaries down? Why are you allowing that? Why are you allowing that? That's your growth. Why are you letting yourself be harmed by someone? So when someone harms you, that's meant to teach you this person isn't safe. And why would I still be in a relationship with someone who's not safe and continues to harm me? And that's a whole other topic for marriage and all of that. And if you are in a marriage that you're being harmed, I would, especially Instagram friends, my Facebook people know me better. Go to my website at leslievernick.com. We have a quick start guide that gives you a test about, am I in an emotionally destructive marriage? And that test will help you discern whether you are or you aren't. And is this just a normal marriage that things happen, or is this a destructive relationship that I need to have better boundaries so that I don't continue to be harmed and my kids don't continue to be harmed? So I don't think that we're to allow ourselves to be in a situation if we can help it. But sometimes you are in a situation like the people in the concentration camp, or prisoners of war. You can't get out. Do you still stay resentful the whole time, or how do you deal with that? Right? You have to do it every day if you don't want to be filled up with resentment. You have every reason to be, but you don't want to. That's not who you want to be. So step number 1, externalize it. Step number 2, choose to forgive. I'm not asking you to feel all kinds of warm fuzzies for the other person. When Jesus tells us to love our enemy, he's not saying kiss them. He's not saying even live with them or talk to them. But let go of that hatred, because that's not who you are. As a Christian, Jesus is saying, that's not who you want to be. You can't be my follower if you're full of hatred. They don't go together. Love your enemy. What does that look like? So this is our 3rd step. Why in the world does Jesus tell us to love our enemy? Why in the world does he tell us to do good to our enemy? Why? Why? That's craziness in psychological terms, right? Let me tell you why. This is our third step. When someone has harmed you, they have shot an arrow of poison in you. And that poison is evil and it's building into resentment because you've been harmed. You've been legitimately harmed. So you've now got poison in your system. And what we want to do when that happens is we want to harm them back, right? We want to, because they harmed us, we want to give it back to them. That's what we want to do naturally. In our humanness, that's what we want to do. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's how it was in the Old Testament, right? And Jesus said, that's not my way. I don't want you to retaliate. I don't want you to pay back evil for evil because that just makes you evil too. And you're not evil. You're my children. I want you to be pure of heart and loving. That doesn't mean you continue to allow evil to harm you if you can help it. But it means that you learn to overcome evil, that poison in you of resentment, with good. Well, how do you do that? I mean, these are Bible verses that I'm talking to you about, but we don't teach people in real life how. How do you do that? So first, you externalize it. Second of all, you choose to forgive. And third, you're going to learn, this is because you want to let go of it, all right? Not those of you who don't, this won't work. You practice the opposite virtue, all right? So our virtues come from this place. So what virtues are important to you as a believer? Maybe the virtue of love and compassion and kindness, some of the fruit of the Spirit, patience, right? Maybe those are some virtues that are important to you. So you pick your virtues. Which are the most important to you? Or which ones do you need to work on that are important to you? All right. So practice the opposite virtue. That comes from this place when you feel opposite emotions here, right? So if we feel resentment here, what might we need to practice here to let go of this here? So I'm going to give you a personal example that I did with the resentment one. So one of the virtues I want to develop is patience, right? I don't naturally have a lot of patience. My body starts getting all tense and frustrated when traffic is slow or the lines are too long at the bank or the grocery store, whatever, because I'm always in a hurry and I've got time issues that I want to get the next thing done. So I don't have a lot of patience. And I've worked on that. Well, how do you work on developing patience? It's not a feeling, it's a virtue. It's a virtue. So when we practice the opposite virtue, here's how I would practice this. I'm standing in a long line at the grocery store and I feel my body getting impatient. I can feel it. I'm starting to tap my foot. I'm starting to roll my eyes. I'm starting to snort a little bit. I'm feeling it. I don't want to feel that anymore. I'm feeling it. I'm not a helpless victim of my feelings. I'm aware I'm feeling impatient. I'm not saying it. I used to say things. I used to say, okay, what's wrong with the store? Why aren't they getting more help? Blah, 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 blah. All that grumbling. I don't do that anymore, but I don't want to feel it anymore. So I notice that I feel it. Starts here, move over here. I'm noticing. What do? I tell myself, I don't want to feel these feelings. I'm going to practice the opposite virtue. What do? I practice having good thoughts toward the store. The store is probably having a really hard time finding employees these days. Boy, lots of stores are struggling with this. I would hate to be a store owner and not be able to find employees. This employee is probably overworked. She's exhausted. Maybe this is her only source of social support and she's gabbing with the person in front of her because she's got a horrible home life and the only people who treat her nice are people who work here and her customers. And so so I'm talking about good things about her, good things about the store. I'm practicing patience. I'm practicing goodness. I'm practicing controlling my mindset. And when I practice those things, guess what happens here? I don't feel impatient anymore. I feel actually quite kind and loving toward the clerk when I get to my turn. And I feel fine about the time that I told myself I was wasting in this long line with this slow clerk, right? And so Jesus says, practice the opposite virtue. You want to hate the person who harmed you. You resent them. You want them to burn in hell. You want them to get in a car accident. You want their life to be trashed for what they did to you. That's what you want. Not really. You don't really want that here. You want that here. So here's where it has to take charge. Who are you? Who do I want to be, even if they're a jerk? You practice the opposite virtue. Jesus says, forgive them. Do good to them. Even if you can't do good directly to them because they're dangerous, you can pray for them. You can seek their highest good, which might be pressing charges for what they did so that they wake up, hopefully. Maybe not. Lots of people go to jail and do the same thing over and over again. But some people change in jail. So what's their highest good? Not what makes them feel good. What's their highest good? How can I love them well? And their highest good might be to hold them accountable. It might be to divorce them so that you quit enabling them. I can love them well. I might not feel warm, fuzzy feelings, but that kind of love is not a feeling love. It's a virtuous love, just like courage. Courage isn't, who feels courageous? You feel afraid, right? You feel afraid, but you act courageously because that's what you need to do in that moment. You don't feel courageous, you just do it. And so it's not hypocritical. And this is a really good illustration of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Why did Jesus say to those people who abused him, whipped him, mocked him, forgive them, for they know not what they do? Do you think those soldiers cared? No, it was Jesus letting go of whatever temptation to hold on to his resentment. He was going to the cross. He couldn't carry that with him, and he didn't want to because of who he was. And remember in the garden, his feelings, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Please take this cup from me. He let his feelings be his feelings. He didn't say, why are you feeling that? You're the Son of God. You shouldn't be feeling that. He let his feelings be his feelings. He honored them. He felt them. He expressed them fully. He wasn't ashamed of them, but they didn't make the final decision. Not my will, but yours. He made that decision. Not my will, but yours. From here, not here. So those are the 3 steps. Those are the 3 steps of letting go resentment. Is it helpful? First, you have to want to. Second, you have to see that you have a bigger part of you than just those emotions. Externalize it. I'm aware I feel hurt, angry, whatever. Decide to forgive. Let go of it. Cancel the debt. And then practice the opposite virtue. So with resentment, the opposite virtue would be forgiveness, would be thinking loving thoughts instead of ugly thoughts, wanting their best. And that doesn't mean what they think is their best, wanting what's best for them. So praying, God, do whatever it takes to help them turn into a better person. Do whatever it takes to bring them to the cross in repentance. Do whatever it takes to help them wake up. Those are good prayers. Those are good prayers out of a loving heart, so that they don't continue to trash their own life and someone else's life now. All right. So those are your steps. So what I'd like to do is just open it up to questions. I hope I can, hello everyone on Instagram again. I hope I can answer them. If you have a question on Instagram, I'm not sure I'll know how to find it or answer it. I'm just seeing my picture and all the waves here. So I'm happy to see the waves, but I have to learn Instagram better. If someone in my area wants to teach me Instagram, that would be great. But I just have a little cheat sheet that says how to go live. Here's my cheat sheet. And I don't know how to do anything else on Instagram other than talk. So here I am. But if you have a question about what I've just talked about, how to let go of resentment, I would be happy to answer that for you. So I'm going to, Karen's helping me. So she's going to, there's so much on the feed going through. I can't catch all your questions. So she's my second pair of eyes and she's catching the questions and she's putting it on my computer. What I want to do right now is I want to put up a little banner for those of you who might want to develop your big circle, this thing that I've been talking about quite a bit today, that you don't know where this is in you. You don't know how to function like I just talked. You're completely functioning out of here. Your feeling self. If you really want to learn how to walk in core strength, which is this part of you, doesn't mean you don't face your feelings or have your feelings or feel your feelings. You do, and we acknowledge that and talk about that. But we help you build a bigger part of you. If you'd like more information on that, especially those of you in Instagram or YouTube who might not be able to see the link, just go to leslievernick.com, which is my website, /group coaching, which is all one word, group coaching, all one word. And you can find out all kinds of information about when it is. We have different morning groups, afternoon groups. There's only 15 people allowed in each group. And so it is filling up quite a bit. So if you would like to secure your spot, just check it out at leslievernick.com/group coaching. And you can read all about what it is, what you learn, what's involved. It's all online, so you don't have to come anywhere. So you can be anywhere in the world. We have morning groups, afternoon, evening groups, sometimes really late evening groups for those of you who might live in a different time zone across the ocean. We have, I think, a 10 o'clock Eastern time group. And so it helps for people who might be out of the country to attend as well. And so we fill these groups up. We do them twice a year. And if that's something of interest to you, if that really appealed to you, that, wow, I am emotionally driven. I don't even know how to control my emotions. I am just reactive. And then I regret. So react, regret, resent, all of that, then this would be for you. You don't have to be in a destructive marriage to need to know how to do this. If you are in a destructive marriage, you definitely need to learn how to do this, because you're only making things worse by your reactions, right? So head over to the group coaching information if that's of interest to you. I'm going to stay for a little bit and answer some questions. So let me go to the questions, and then we'll see where we go from there. What do you do when someone resents you for telling the truth or love or revealing the truth that hurts them? You can't control their reactions to things. So when you say to someone, oh, I love that dress. It's beautiful on you. Oh, you're just saying that. I mean, you could say it the nicest, kindest, positive thing to someone, and they could still not like what you said. Or are you just saying that? You don't really believe that, because of their own stuff that's going on in their head. So I think that the most important thing to do is to keep your side of the street clean and take responsibility for your side of the street. You can't control their side of the street. So I can mow my grass, but I can't make my neighbor mow their grass. I can hopefully be a good influence on, if my yard is clean, their yard will be clean, but it isn't always the case. And so you delivered it well. You said, hey, I have a concern and I want to share this with you. And however you delivered it, if you deliver it well, keep your side of the street clean, know how to speak up and speak to in love, not just, sometimes we think truth is most important, but truth without love, the Bible tells us, is like clanging cymbals or a noisy gong. People can't hear it. So we give truth with love so that it's easier to go down. Like the spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down, right? So the truth is the medicine, the love is the sugar. And if we don't combine them, most people spit the medicine out. They won't receive it. But even so, you might have done it all right and they still don't receive it. And so all you can do is offer truth. How many people heard what Jesus said and spit it out? They didn't want to hear it. They put their hands over their ears. The Pharisees, he said very directly, you are blind guides. You're like whitewashed tombs. You're dead inside. And they're like, oh, we don't want to hear it. And so please don't put it on yourself. It's your job to make them hear. Even Jesus couldn't make people hear. People hear when they want to hear, just like I asked you. I don't take any responsibility if you don't let go of the resentment. I asked you, do you want to? Some of you still aren't ready to. And that's your choice, right? So we can't make someone hear something that they don't want to hear. But what that does tell you is this person isn't open to your feedback. They're not open to growth. And this is one of our steps in building this big circle, is that you do have to be open to growth. You have to be open to learning new things if you are going to develop that bigger sense of you that has more control. And so some people choose to stay very immature and emotion driven. And the Bible calls them fools. They don't want to hear. They don't want to receive advice. They don't want to change. And they just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And you can't take responsibility to change them. So you might have to accept that that's who they are. And now what do I need to do if I'm in a relationship with this person? What's my next steps? Not how do I get them to hear? How do I get them to listen? I need them to listen for me to be okay. If you need someone to listen to you, for you to be okay, you're going to be in a mess, because if they don't want to listen, then what? You're going to be resentful. And it goes in that circle over and over and over again. All right, here's another question. What do you say to someone who struggles with executive dysfunction? Yeah, so sometimes people do suffer. They might have a frontal lobe injury, or they might have early dementia or other kinds of biological eating of the brain that impairs some of their executive function. So I don't know that, I would have to know what the limitations of that are, and then you accept that. So you don't expect someone who's 2 to function like a 12-year-old, right? You don't have that expectation. So you're not mad at them. Like, why can't you tie your shoes, you stupid kid? You would never say that if you're in your right mind as a mom to a 2-year-old, right? Hopefully you would never say that to a 12-year-old, but you would have different expectations of a 12-year-old than you would a 2-year-old. So part of our responsibility is to understand what someone's limitations and capacities are. And sometimes if they're limited biologically or neurologically, if your husband is paralyzed from the waist down, you're probably not going to expect the same sex life that you would have if he were an able-bodied man. I don't know what his limitations would be, but you'd have to come to a place of acceptance without resentment in order to still be in a relationship with someone, right? And so sometimes as we age, or sometimes because of medical issues or because of bad drug habits or other kinds of things, we lose some executive function. And what are his limitations? I know a friend who knows a friend whose husband doesn't remember anything. And so he, every day is a new day to him, and she remembers everything. And it's hard. And so she needs support, she needs friends, but you have to accept what is. And I think if we really look at the whole topic of resentment, a lot of it is that we're refusing to accept what is. I refuse to accept that. I resent that it is. I resent that I'm human and I make mistakes, so I can't forgive myself. I resent that he's human, he makes mistakes, and I can't forgive him for hurting me or disappointing me. I resent that God didn't change things or whatever. It's a whole, if we look at this chart again, I hope this chart can be helpful for you long term. We have a lot of bad thoughts about how things should be. If you use a lot of shoulds in your vocabulary or shouldn'ts, he should be this way. He shouldn't do that. I should do that. All of it, you're shoulding on yourself, but you're believing that life should be the way you say it should be. And it's not. But you're going to feel a lot of anger and resentment because life isn't working out the way it should. And your kids should clean their rooms, and your kids should be willing to do their homework, and your kids should be grateful. Well, what kind of mom are you going to show up if you have real kids? You're going to be resentful and angry that they're not doing what they should, right? And so be careful of those shoulds, because those shoulds create a lot of negative feelings towards everything. So part of being healthy is embracing what is, even when you wish it wasn't that way. I mean, if someone dies, we don't like it. And I'm not saying embrace it with a big smile, but we have to embrace what is. If you have breast cancer, you can't even take the next right step if you're just mad that you had breast cancer or you refuse to accept it. You have to accept it before you even take chemo, right? Before you even go for surgery, you have to say, yes, this is my problem. Not, why do I have this problem? And I shouldn't be having this problem. I might have no family history. And you get caught in the should of this shouldn't be, but it is. I shouldn't have been the one to get divorced. Well, it is. It is. How do I live with what is true, not what I want to be true? What is true? What is real? Not what I think it should have been. Because that leads to a lot of resentment that it isn't the way I think it should be. All right. What do you do when feelings hijack one's body when in a difficult circumstance? Ocular migraine, temporary blindness. So when your feelings hijack your body wins, right? Your body wins. So if you are neglecting the warning signs of your body, so if you're having an ocular migraine, or if you're having an epileptic seizure or whatever you're having, this wins. This is always going to, I have a client who ignored her sleepiness. She was driving, she was sleepy, body won. She fell asleep in the wheel, crashed into a car. Thankfully, she didn't get hurt and she didn't hurt anybody, but she could have. She could have killed a child riding a bike because she was not listening. Our feelings are wonderful informants. Pay attention. She was sleepy. She needed to pay attention to her body. If you're not eating, if you're not sleeping, if you're not functioning in your body, do you think this part of you is going to work very well? No, it can't. It's very hard for your executive functions to work when you're 2 days sleep deprived, right? Because this isn't online well, right? And so it's really important That's why the Bible tells us to steward your body, take care of your body, get enough sleep, eat healthy, exercise. And when you're so we talked about getting up in the morning. So I never feel like getting up. I'm a slow riser. So I never feel getting up. So I get up not because of my feelings. I get up because I do. I get up because I tell myself to get up because I have things I want to do. Right. But here's where our feelings give us information. So let's say I woke up in the morning and I felt headachy, like, ugh, which I feel every morning. Like I didn't get enough sleep and I don't want to get out of bed. Every morning I feel that way. I never wake up like, oh, it's a beautiful day. So I am a slow riser. I have my head in my hands and I'm sitting up with my head in my hands. And then I get up and I go take a shower. But if when I did that and I went and took a shower, my feelings and my body were still feeling the same as it was 20 minutes ago, like I have a terrible headache and I don't feel good, I would get out of the shower and go back to bed. I would listen to my body, right? And so oftentimes when you ignore your feelings and you do what you need to do, those feelings change, right? You don't keep feeling tired. You don't keep feeling headache. You just get up and go do your thing. But if you do, then your body's telling you, no, that's not it. You're not tired. You're sick. You're sick. You're coming down with the flu. Take your temperature, get back to bed. And so you honor that. But this part decides, because you don't ignore your feelings there. You let them tell you, hey, we've got more problems here. You're just not sleepy. And so this is that interaction of learning to listen to your feelings and honor them. And sometimes they get to, inform you and you make the decision. Thank you, feelings, for letting me recognize that I was so sleepy. I couldn't keep driving and I needed to rest so that I didn't hurt myself or someone else. Or I'm sick and I need to take care of me and I can't go to work. Right? Those are important things. Or I am so miserable in this marriage and everything I've tried, I just feel like I'm dying inside. Those are important emotions to pay attention to. Right? I feel so afraid to speak up. I can't even say a word without my husband coming down on me hard. I don't feel safe. Those are important feelings to pay attention to. We don't just ignore them. They're warning you. Warning bells. Ding, 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 like a fire alarm. Do something. Get safe. Check it out. Is there a fire? If there is, get out. Do what you need to do. Okay? Regarding the discussion on forgiveness, isn't the anger normal to have it first? Of course. Of course. I think we talked about that earlier, that anger is a normal response to being in injustice, to being oppressed, to being disrespected, to being even denied what we want. You tell your child they can't have a cookie. It's not unjust. It is in their mind, but not in yours, but they're angry. They're disappointed. So our emotions, do respond to denial of what we want, usually with disappointment, sadness, or anger, because we want what we want. If your husband wants sex and you say no, he's probably going to feel either disappointed or angry. He's not going to say, I'm fine. Now, but his big circle, so let's just go through this. So if you say, no, I can't, I'm tired, or for whatever reason you don't want to, and he gets disappointed, and then you go, oh, I can't stand that he's disappointed, therefore I have to give in to him. Well, he can deal with his disappointment just like you would deal with yours. Hey, I'm aware I feel disappointed, and it'll pass. Now, nobody ever gets what they want all the time. That's what we say to ourselves, right? I'm aware that I'm disappointed, and it's not the end of the world. It's not like I never get this. It's not that I never get what I want. It's just I'm not going to get what I want right now. Or I'm angry right now because, I can't get through to the credit card company and I feel frustrated. Of course you do. But how do I want to handle that? Especially when I get through the customer service, am I going to scream and yell at them? Or am I going to calm myself down so I can handle myself in a way that makes me proud and not regret it because I'm just reacting out of my emotions? So our emotions are real, they function, and anger is an appropriate response to sin, our own sin and someone else's sin. How we handle our anger is our responsibility, right? So just because we're angry doesn't give us a green card to be mean, to be disrespectful, to be abusive to someone else, to be harmful to their integrity as an image bearer of God, just because we're angry. And I think our culture, we see the effects of anger out of control. Do you want your home to look like that? And maybe some of your homes do look like that. And that's why you're watching me. And if it does look like that, understand that that breaks God's heart and it hurts your children. This is not a war zone. A family is meant to be the safest place for children to be, not a war zone. And so when we can't control our anger, we can't control our expression of our anger, that's on us to do. One of the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. One of the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. So if we're to mature and become the holistic whole person, I'm kind of erasing this, but this is the you that God wants us to be. Self-control is part of that, so that we are able to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And we are to follow the verse in Ephesians where it says, in your anger, do not sin. He's not saying don't be angry. He's saying when you get angry, you got to be a little careful here, because you could easily, your anger lies to you, you're easily justify going off the top. And I think when we're angry and yelling, that's appropriate, because if you said to someone, I just need you to know I'm so angry about what you did, it just doesn't match, right? So if we have a firm, I'm really angry right now, I need you to hear me, I think that's totally appropriate. When we start calling them names and attacking another person for making me angry, that's a whole different story. All right. So use your voice tone to express your anger. Be careful of your words. I've often felt angry with myself, resentment about my body, which has developed illnesses and muscle weaknesses. I am so sorry. I have struggled that a little bit too, with my body and just feeling angry that it's not, the thin, lithe body that I wanted. And it's never been. Even when I was a kid, I had this big old waist that would have never worn a two-piece. And I just felt bad about it. And, I feel at this stage in my life, I'm like, thank you, body, for being healthy enough to be able to walk 5 miles a day and all of those kind of things. But I think when we resent what we do not have, because we're comparing ourselves to someone else, whether it's a body we want, or the health that we want, or the money that we want, or the house that we want, or the husband that we want, or something else that we want, we're living in a distorted, because we can't have what we want. We're living in disappointment land constantly, disappointed and resentful towards life, me, because I don't have what I want. And I think that verse in Paul's letter to the Philippians, where he says, I have learned to be content. I have learned to be content. So I think there is this angst for all of us that we don't have what we want. And so we get resentful. But what if we could learn to be grateful for what we have? Instead of living with this idea that I don't have enough, that I'm not enough, and there isn't enough. What if we live with the idea that I have enough? I have more than enough, that I am enough, that I'm exactly the way God made me. And there is enough. Even if we just thought those thoughts different, instead of always saying to myself, I'm not enough, there isn't enough, he's not enough. If we just changed them to, I am enough. I have everything that I need for life and godliness. That's what God tells us in First Peter or Second Peter 1, either one, I'm not sure where it says, we have everything we need for life and godliness. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and my soul knows it full well. I am enough. I have enough. There is enough. I have a heavenly Father who gives me everything I need. Why am I worried? Why am I scared? Why am I living as if I'm deprived? Right? So I think there is something about learning to think differently, which is what the Bible tells us, that we're to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, that could help this part of us not feel so angry and resentful. So the Bible says in Psalm 55:2, my thoughts trouble me and I am distraught. So I would say that paying attention to your thought life might impact your emotional life. And if you could learn to be grateful and appreciative of everything you have, instead of angry and resentful of everything you don't have, you might feel a whole lot better inside. Okay. I do. I've been doing for this year a gratitude journal. I've never done that before. I try to be grateful and appreciative, but I think that's a weak spot of me. I'm really good at seeing what's wrong. That's probably what's made me a very good therapist for people in destructive marriages because I can see it real fast. So I'm really good at seeing what's wrong in me and you and the world and everything else. But I haven't always been so good at seeing what's good and true and right and lovely. And Paul says, let your mind think on those things because it makes a difference here. So I've been practicing a gratitude journal this year. And I have to tell you that it has made a difference. Just every day focusing on what's good and true and right in my life and my body and my family and my world instead of what's wrong can make a difference in how you feel and how you show up. So I'd encourage you to practice that. I think the verse in Matthew that says you should be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect has tripped me into perfectionism over the years. I thought that was a standard. How do I undo that thinking? I don't think that's what it means because Jesus never scolded his disciples for the mistakes they made or the imperfections. In fact, he told them that he told Peter, hey, Peter, you're going to mess up. And Peter said, who, me? I'm never going to mess up. I'm perfect. Right. And so Jesus said, well, Peter, you don't know yourself very well. You're going to mess up. Right. So I think that verse really means be mature, but be mature as a human being. So if we think about what humility is, God calls us to have humility. That's meekness. It's one of the fruit of the spirit, that we would be meek. It means not that you think more highly or more lowly of yourself than you should. Paul tells us not to do that either. But having humility says that you think rightly about yourself. And so rightly about yourself is, I am a finite, limited, beautiful, but broken human being. I am created in God's image. I am not God. So that humility of saying, I can't possibly be perfect because only God is perfect. If I could be perfect, I would be God. I'm to grow to be more like him. And Jesus showed us what the perfect human being looked like, Adam and Eve, before they sinned. But we don't have that ability. If we had that ability to be sinless, then Jesus wouldn't have needed to die. He could have just come and shown us, and then he would have just gone back. He died because we don't have the ability anymore to be sinless. So when we sin, we have a faithful priest who forgives us our sins and cleanses us from all unrighteousness. If we say we have no sin, the truth is not in us, 1 John. So humility means that we have to come square face to face with our limits. I don't know anything. I don't know everything. I can't do everything. I can't fix everything because I'm not God. And so I don't need to feel guilty or responsible that I can't fix you, that I can't change you, that I can't fix our marriage if you don't want to work on it. I don't have that kind of power. I'm a limited human being. And that can be very freeing to accept that I am limited. I don't know what you need to do to get better. You need to figure that out. All I know is what I need to do. I can't fix you. I can love you. I can't fix you. Only you can fix you. Isn't that freeing? Isn't that freeing for those of you who've been trying to fix everybody in your life? And it's a little arrogant to think that you know what to do for them. You don't. You know some of the way. I'm giving you a few breadcrumbs about resentment, but I don't know everything about everything. I go to lots of teachers who can show me different things, right? So accepting that you're limited takes away the shame of being limited. I don't feel shame if I don't know. I don't feel shame if I have to say to someone in a question, I don't really know the answer to that. It's okay. I'm limited. I'm fallible. I'm going to make mistakes. It's embarrassing, but I'm going to make them, right? Because I'm fallible. I'm not perfect. And so I think those things that if you could begin to reorient your thinking, that God isn't asking you, he didn't make you to be him. He's him. He made you to be like him in terms of loving and gracious and forgiving, and to be able to show human beings what God is like by forgiving and letting go of resentment. That's not normal. That's not natural. Our natural impulse is to hit someone back when they hit us, right? And so if God is saying we're to be like him, we're to do those kind of things. And sometimes those are hard enough, let alone trying to be perfect. You can't be perfect. So let yourself off the hook there. And it doesn't mean that in Matthew. It means more mature. and taking the image qualities that were in Christ's image of God to embody that so that we would be like God, like Christ, but not him. Okay. How do I live with a husband who continues to be emotionally, verbally abusive and not have resentment? I know I'm resentful because I find nothing attractive about him. I cringe at the sight of him, even though on the outside I am being kind. Yeah. So I think that's some work that you could do on yourself. Like, how do I love this man with good boundaries? So I might say to him, for example, and these would be different. I don't know your situation at all. So I might say to him, for example, I love you. And I really think that your character is becoming deformed by the way that you talk to me, to the kids. You talk ugly, you talk mean, you talk in a demeaning way. And I'm just giving you a heads up that it's really impacting my ability to feel close to you or want to be around you. I still love you. I want your best, but it is impacting our relationship. Whether or not that matters to you, I'm letting you know it's impacting me. So it might be a healthy dose of strong truth and love to let him know. Just like if you would say to your husband, if he were having a big black mole growing here in his neck that he didn't notice, and you knew that it could be potential melanoma, deadly, I hope you would say to him, hey, you got something ugly growing on your neck and I'm scared for you. Please get help. You can't make him get help. You can't make him face this. You can't make him go to the doctor. You can't make him get treatment. But you can say, I'm warning you, this is damaging and you might die. Right? And you're not going to say it that way. You say it a nicer way that I just said. But I think our role as a helpmate, as a wife, is to let them know, hey, you're driving the car straight off the cliff. Do you want us all to go down? If he's been reckless driving or whatever it is, your job isn't just to prop him up and say, you're such a good man. And that's what Christian women have been told to do in some of the Christian books, right? That we're to be the fluffy, encouraging, supportive, silent helpmate. But I believe that the Bible is saying helpmate means you can be the encouraging, supportive person, but you also speak the truth in love. And when someone is doing destructive things, you call them out on it, not in a I'm better than you or you're wrong, I'm right kind of way. But hey, the way that you're interacting with our kids right now is going to destroy your relationship with them. Does that matter to you? So if we take this chart again, and I'm just going to give you a little secret of what you can know. And I've just written a blog this week that might be helpful for you guys to look at as well. It's on my website. I'll just go to the blog. So your husband may be acting out of this all the time. His emotions, his anger. He may be telling himself all kinds of lies like, these kids are driving me crazy and I can't take it anymore. And why can't you make them behave? And so then he's just fueling his anger. And he's lost this part of himself, or he doesn't even have this part of himself. Right? Just like maybe some of you don't have this part of yourself yet. Right? And so part of our role as a helpmate is to help him think about this part of himself so that he can get a little free from this part of himself. And so if he's been demeaning or disrespectful to you, then just be able to say to him, hey, is this the kind of dad that you want? Do you want your kids to remember that all you did was yell and call them names? Is that who you want them to think of you as a dad? What's most important to you as a dad? So you're giving him questions here as his helpmate that might help him reflect, wow, I'm out of alignment. I'm doing things here that are totally against who I want to be and how I want to show up. I'm letting this part of me control me, not this part of me. Abigail did this in the Old Testament. We know the story. She was married to a fool, Nabal. She didn't do it with her husband because her husband wouldn't have heard it. Some husbands will not hear it because there is no big circle. They're just foolish here. Their big circle is their most important values are to be right and to win and put people down. That's all they care about. So there's no talking to that kind of person. So she didn't have a conversation with him about it, but she did have a conversation with someone else about it. Remember when Nabal, her husband, made a decision that put her whole household in jeopardy. David and his fighting men were coming to kill everybody in Nabal's household. Well, Abigail did not submit to her husband's decision. She was a resourceful woman. And she got the food together. You can read the story in 1 Samuel 19, I believe. She got the family together. She got the servants together. They got food together. She went out to meet David. And in her conversation with David, she humbled herself and she said, David, my husband's a fool. And she said some other things. But then she spoke to this part of him, not this. He was furious. He was going to go kill everybody. And she said to this part of him, David, the future king of Israel, is this what you want on your legacy? Is this the kind of man you want to be? Think about it. And he was grateful. He was grateful that she reminded him, no, I don't want to let this part of me control me. I don't want to be, I don't want to do that. Man, I'm furious at what your husband did. But I don't want to do that. No. Right? So her wise words, speaking the truth in love to a man she never met before who was going to kill her, who was out to kill her. Think of the presence of mind she had to have and to operate not out of her fear or her, like, I'm just running. They can kill everybody else, but I'm getting out of here. You know, she had quite a bit of courage. She spoke to him, but she spoke to that part of him. So I would encourage you this question: how do you live with a husband who continues to be verbally abused? So I would say one thing is you don't have to. You don't have to. I'm going to be doing a workshop in October 5th. Put it on your calendar. If he doesn't hit you, is it still abuse? And I'm going to talk about what are all the other kinds of abuse and what is the heart of abuse, because it's not hitting and it's not even verbal abuse. It's something else. And I want you to know what that is so you can identify it right away. So I don't think God asks you to stay in an abusive, emotionally, verbally abusive marriage. And so maybe the consequences are, you know, if this is who you want to be and how you want to treat me, I don't want to live here. And I'm going to separate until you decide what you really want, because I'm not letting myself be abused anymore. See, you want him to stop in order for you to be okay. And that's a noble thing. Ask him, stop. Ouch, you're stepping my toe. Don't do that. But if they don't stop, then it's your responsibility to steward your safety and your children's safety. So I would encourage you to say, why are you still there? If he is still doing this and it's harming you and your kids, why haven't you left? Why haven't you put a boundary down? So these are the things that are wrong in our head as Christian women. We believe some lies. Like, oh, God hates divorce, or, oh, everybody we met, you know, we have, and so we need the support and help to make those decisions. So this course might be helpful for you, this Walking on Core Strength course. It's at leslievernick.com/group coaching. So check it out, or watch the webinar that we have coming up in October on this whole topic, because God says that you're responsible to steward your safety. And if your safety is in jeopardy and you're losing your health and you're losing your sense of self because someone's putting you down all the time, my question to you is, why are you allowing that to happen? Even this phrase, when your husband starts vomiting all over you. I hear you're angry and you may have some important things to say, but the way that you talk to me is so disrespectful, I cannot hear it. And then just walk away. Just walk away. You're walking away from me. Yes, I am. I am not allowing myself to be talked to that way anymore. Not you can't talk to me. He can talk to you any way he wants. But I am not allowing myself to be talked to that way. And you leave. Close the door. Lock it if you need to. And if he escalates, call the police. And that shows you he is not interested in caring about your feelings. And if he's not interested in caring about your feelings, he's only going to do more harm, right? If you stuck up for yourself and said, hey, I hear you're angry and you might have some really good reasons to be angry, but I am not listening to this verbal abuse anymore. And you walk away and you don't engage. It might wake him up to say, wow, that's a new girl. And he might calm himself down, which would be a good sign. So you don't know until you take a stand, because you're allowing it to continue to happen to you. You don't have to allow it. God doesn't say wives need to let themselves be abused. God hates abuse. And he hates when husbands treat their wives that way. And just as a little preview, we all used to believe that verse in Malachi that says God hates divorce. But one of the things that you're going to have to get healthy, if you're going to get healthy about these things, is you're going to have to maybe break up with some beliefs or learn some new beliefs. And it doesn't really say that. It never said that. The King James Bible mistranslated that verse to say that. I don't know why. Maybe to keep wives at home who were leaving their husbands. I don't know. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say God hates divorce. It doesn't say God hates all divorce. That's mistranslated and misquoted. It says God hates when a man treats his wife treacherously. How many of you could raise your hand and say that's happening in my house? So is it bad for you to stand up for yourself and call your husband to account and say, I will not let myself be treated this way anymore? This is not how a man is to treat a woman, and I won't let myself be silent and say that this is okay. It is not okay. And then what might happen if you said enough? Either he's going to get worse or he's going to change. And that's scary. I know. So you would need some support and some help. So please get the help you need from the Domestic Violence Support Group, or join our support group, Conquer. Go to the Quick Start Guide on our website to see what's going on with you in that. All right. I have a podcast to do in 10 minutes. So I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to have to go for today. But this has been fun. Maybe I'll get a little bit more courageous about doing Instagram Lives. Have this been helpful, guys, for you? I would love some feedback about that. And I may try it again. All right. I think there's a common thread in the women here. I think so. We are resentful because we put others' needs before our own so long. Where is this coming from? Our upbringing of submission. Yes, that's one of them. Our upbringing of submission. I don't know how many of you have watched the documentary Happy Shiny Family, of the Duggar family, the 19 and counting family, and the whole blow up with that and their family and the Bill Gothard Institute. But we live in a patriarchal culture. We have our whole lives. It's male dominated, and it's some men are good men and some men are not, but it's male dominated. It's run by men for the most part. The power is in the male hands, and the church has sort of normalized that as God's way. Now, there's lots of patriarchal cultures that aren't Christian cultures. I've been in Iraq, and it's very patriarchal there, much more than here, and it's not a Christian country. But the Christian church has adopted that mindset that was in the Old Testament culture as well, patriarchal, as the biblical mindset. I don't see that in the Bible. I don't see God endorsing a patriarchal mindset that man has power over a woman. Even if you look at headship and submission passages, headship is always described as servant leadership by Jesus himself, not ruling over someone with authority. So I do think that there's this idea of headship and submission. I've got to do what my husband wants. But I also think for women, we have stayed childlike. We've not matured as we should into full adulthood. We've stayed dependent financially. So I don't want to have to get a job. I want to be a homeschool mom. I don't want to have to go to college. I don't want to have to be an adult. I just want someone to take care of me. And then when I end up marrying someone who hurts me and doesn't treat me well, I don't know how to take care of myself. I don't know how to get out of there. I don't know how to support myself. And so I think we have to own that the church has not equipped and helped women to become fully functioning adults, to have their no. You don't get married and all of a sudden lose your no. Like a 2-year-old has a no. Why is it that a Christian woman can't have her no? She has a no. And that doesn't mean she's an ungodly woman. So I think there's that. And I also think that there's this desire to please. And most women, I have it too, more than men. Like I'll say to my husband, doesn't it bother you that you don't do that? He goes, no, it doesn't bother. Don't you feel guilty that you're not? No, I don't feel guilty. I'm like, I feel guilty that I'm not making this big Thanksgiving dinner. I feel guilty that I've not celebrated everybody's birthdays in a certain way. And nope, I don't feel guilty at all. So I do think there's something in the gender, just in our DNA, that makes us more people pleasing, more accommodating, more trying to be sensitive and more intuitive. So I don't think males read people's needs as we do. We can see when someone needs some help. We can see when they're down. We can see when we might offer a word of encouragement. And so we move into that role. And I think we can overdo that. It's a good thing. I think it's a gift, but we can not have boundaries. We cannot have self-stewardship. We can't be mature enough. And so we think we need to be the fixer and the hero of everyone's story. And we can't be that. So I think there's a number of things here at play. But I like to explore all of those, and I love to look at all of those. But I think my mission right now is to help women, Christian women, particularly those who have been fed these lies, like God hates all divorce, or I just have to submit, to break up with those lies and really learn God's truth. Really learn God's truth so that you can be free. And hopefully your marriage can be better at what God wants it to be. and that you not just lie and pretend because God hates divorce. And so I just have to suck it up and take it all. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So that's my mission. That's why I'm here. And if you resonate with that, come hang out with us some more. Check out my website. But if you're interested in the small group process, we have, again, a number of coaches that work with me who do this group. They've been on Facebook Live. You've gotten to know them. So check it out. It's leslievernick.com/group coaching, and see if that might be a good fit for what you need so that you can grow up right now. All right. Take care. God bless. And I'll do this again on Instagram. Thanks. Bye-bye. And I got to end all these broadcasts. I'm going to end this one. Look at my note on how to end. That's how un-Instagrammy I am. I don't even know how to end this. So let me see what I'm supposed to do. There must be a done button somewhere, right? Tell me where the done button is, or I'm going to be on Instagram for the rest of the day. Done. Comment. Nope, no comment. That's not what I want to do. Sorry, guys. I don't know how to end this. I don't see a done button. I'm going to press that one. Nope, that's not it, but I'll accept you guys to join. You're sending hearts. Thank you. I feel like a child. I don't see the done button. Leanne, can you please text me where the done button is, or put it on Facebook or somewhere? I see that you're there, but I don't see the done button. That's so weird. Question mark, send. Nope, that's not it. Questions, no questions. People invited to join. Now I know how to do that. And the X button, I don't see any done button. All right. Well, I turned off the video, but I don't know that I turned off the sound. So let's turn that back on. I'm back on. Guys, I don't know how to end this. Hit the X. Thanks, Leanne. I don't know if I'm still on or not, because now I went to something else. Hold on. Oh, this is Leslie being unprepared. Instagram. Hit the X. There we go. All right, we're sure we end to end now. Thank you guys for your patience. I'm still on. Oh, goodness. I think it's over with now. Okay, thank you. I think we're done. I think I'm off. I hope. I'm still live. I don't know how to get off. I'm still live. So I'm helpless to know how to get off. I thought I did it. I said to end live, but it didn't end. Live end. Yes, I do want to end. You guys are so helpful. So I'm in Instagram. Where am I now? You're still live. Martha is aware. There's no way I can end this. Are you there to help her? No one's here to help me, Martha. So help. Oh, great. I'm going to pull my phone out of this thing. That will help me. Hold on. And Instagram. I don't want to add anything to the story. Recent. I don't want to do that. Am I still live? I can't tell. Done. There's nowhere to press anything.